Is this South Africa's best shot to win a T20 World Cup or any World Cup? That's the question I'm going to be asking to the panel today. I'm going to be asking to all of you guys today on the show as well, because it's time for the T20 World Cup. Now, we produced a magazine recently, guys, for you guys to consume. Basically, a massive preview for this World Cup, of course. So this is the front cover of the magazine, so you guys can have a look. It's got all Kagiso Rabada is the feature or the star of the front cover, and we named it Kagiso Rabada the Gladiator, and it is an excellent piece by Chris Chiwanza in here on Rabada and what he's going and his importance to this particular World Cup squad as well. So please go ahead and download it. It's 100% free, straight to your inbox every month. So go ahead and download that straight away, guys, because this will prepare you for everything. Even this preview, funny enough, is in the magazine, even though it hasn't even been shot yet at this point when we released it. But I put the footholder in there so you guys can go watch it later on. So download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. But what I need you guys to also do is also support South African cricket. We know that we need to support South African cricket as much as possible. So please go ahead and do so. The link is on the screen as well as in the description to become a Patreon. So go ahead and become a Patreon today. This is how you help us grow South African cricket, promote South African cricket, etc., etc., etc. So please help us out over there as well by becoming a Patreon today. I also need you guys to go to cricketfanaticsmag.com because we'll be covering the World Cup on this site. So every single report or player moments or feature that we do throughout this World Cup campaign, it will be on this particular website. So please go to cricketfanaticsmag.com for all your regular updates. So without further ado, I think let's get straight into today's preview. We've got a panel as well that will be joining us tonight. So stay tuned and also give all your comments and your teams, etc., in the show. Try to listen to what we have to say on the show first and then comment accordingly so that we can have a little bit of actual, I don't want chaos in the live chat. Actually, that's what I'm actually asking you guys not to do. So let's listen to the points that are being made on the show and comment as we go along. Have a conversation as you guys normally have as well, but also take note on what we are saying as well from a preview perspective. Very important that you guys also do that as well. So let's get into today's show. I'm looking forward to it, guys. I hope you guys are too. And it's going to be something where we're going to talk about everything. I'm not only going to be talking about South Africa alone. I'm going to ask questions about other teams too, because we need to also see who's in our group, etc., and how we're going to combat that as well. It's very important. So let's get straight into this video. Looking forward to having a conversation with all of you guys. This is the preview of the World Cup, South Africa's World Cup campaign in Australia, which kicks off on Monday. So let's get straight into it. A very good evening. Welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine. This is your preview show. I'm your host, Khalid, and this is the show basically where we talk about everything that has to do with the World Cup between obviously all the nations that have qualified now. We know which groups are going to be, which teams are going to be in which groups, etc. And particularly, we're going to focus on South Africa's group, but we're going to also maybe tap in on the other teams as well to get some insight. I've got Werner with me, I've got Faye with me, I've got Emily with me, and we're going to get stuck into this World Cup preview. There's a lot to talk about, so let's get straight into it. I think first and foremost, for the guys that don't know, the updated squads, of course, the squad was updated after the injury of Dwayne Pretorius, of course. Marco Jansen was brought into the squad. So there's a change up in the squad of after that, of course, and we know that what the squad is going to be. But obviously, Marco Jansen coming in, and then we have Wayne Parnell as the two all-rounders. Here are all our batters. We've got Temba, Quinton, Riley, David, Aiden, Heinrich, Tristan, and Riza. We've got Keshav Maharaj and Tabrei Shamsi in the spinning department, Lungingidi, Anik Nokia, and Kagiso Rabada in the seamers department, and then you've got your travelling reserves, who are Bjorn Fortuin, Andile Pechlegwayo, and Lazard Williams. That's the first and foremost what we need to just cover for those that don't know what the squad is. If you guys haven't maybe looked at any of the shows that we've done before, it would be a good indication for you guys. But the most important part is probably who is in our group first and foremost. I think that's very important. So these are fixtures so far that we have. It was released first up against Zimbabwe. That will be on Monday. And then we've got Bangladesh on Thursday, the 27th of October. We've got India on 30th of October, then Pakistan, and then the Netherlands. So those are our fixtures for the up and coming tournament. This is on social media. You can go to Instagram as well, on our Facebook page. It is there, as well as in our magazine. The fixtures are right at the back of the mag as well, so you guys can get some insight into who we're playing. So let's get straight into this part of the discussion. First and foremost, let's talk about the group. I want to get everybody's views here. So I'm going to start over there with Werner, then I'm going to go to Faye, and then I'm going to go to Emily. I would like to get your thoughts on the group and the teams that we are playing. Are you comfortable currently? How are you feeling about our group? Which group do you think is harder between the group one and group two, of course?
It's a tricky one. You would probably say our group ended up being maybe the better one to be in than the other group, but having India and Pakistan in your group is not going to make it easy. So, and obviously, Zimbabwe in particular have played very well to get into this group. So they're playing good cricket. Sikandar Raza is playing awesome cricket. I think we'd love to have an all rounder like that in our side currently. And the Netherlands, they did well getting into it as well. Won their first two games, maybe just about sneaked in there or snuck in there because Namibia couldn't quite manage their chase. Um, yeah, so I guess if you look at it from a general point of view, you'd probably say we have the nicer squad. You'd, in general, expect us to beat the Netherlands and beat Zimbabwe and beat Bangladesh. But obviously, you can't take any team for granted, and you don't want to be complacent against any of them. But if I guess if you said to us before the tournament, before the first games happened, that our first game would end up being Zimbabwe and our last game would end up being the Netherlands, we would have definitely taken it.
Because especially with the other teams that we could have possibly faced as well. I mean, Sri Lanka was one of the options that we could have possibly faced as well. I think, and I mean, West Indies being out of this tournament is ridiculous as well. It's crazy. I can't believe that they're not here. But I mean, Faye, your observation of the group, let me rather say than opinion.
Yeah, listen, I don't think that we can like underestimate any of the teams because I mean they've all played pretty good cricket to get to like where they are now. But I think yeah, if you look at sort of Pakistan and India, I think those will probably be our biggest competition in the group. Well, it should be our biggest competition in the group because India is also looking pretty strong. That being said, though, we did do pretty well against them. Like we had some outstanding performances against India leading up to the World Cup. So hopefully our guys can pull through and yeah, continue the form that they've been sort of showing leading up to this. But yeah, I think I don't know. I think we're in for a pretty good competition because I think some teams that we might be underrating, I think they're gonna come up with some pretty strong competition.
And Emily, from your perspective, when you're looking at obviously the subcontinent teams, it's a heavy subcontinent base in our particular group, of course. Yes, it's in Australian conditions, but I'm going to ask Fail about this a little bit later. But from what I've seen in these group stages, etc., it's been a bit uh, different, I would say, than I thought it was going to be. Spin is playing a hell of a lot, a massive role in this particular tournament so far, as we've seen, particularly at Hobart. So when you're looking at this particular team, do you think the teams that we have here, do you think South Africa's balance in their squad is perfect to be able to play against any of these nations?
Um, yo, it's. I mean, we'd like to say yes, but I mean, the way we've been playing recently, I feel like we really, when we're good in our day, we're really good. So I think we do have the balance, we do have the players, but looking at it, what it's been like, Spinner's been already been playing quite a big role. So I think it's going to be important for us to be able to combat that spin early, especially like you said, we have a lot of subcontinent players in our group. So teams in our group. So it's going to be important for us to be able to play that correctly. I think looking at the groups, like I think Vanna said this earlier, like you can't really, Faye also said it, like you can't really underestimate anyone because, I mean, looking at the beginning stage of the tournament, like it was already so many upsets in the beginning stage. So I think it's going to be difficult. Yes, we have the easier teams in the sense of, you know, Netherlands and Zim and maybe Bangladesh, although never underestimate Bangladesh. So I think it's going to be tough. But I do think we have the batters and the bowlers to be able to combat that spin there. Yeah.
What I've noticed as well recently, well, particularly in T20 cricket, that opening partnership is so important. Power play is massively important, and getting runs on the board in that first power play is so important. But South Africa haven't necessarily found a settled opening pair for this World Cup or for any T20 game so far. We've tended to be down one or two wickets by the time our big hitters and our match winners come in, and they've had to kind of stabilize everything and basically win the match for us. So first and foremost, Faye, I think probably the most difficult question for every single cricket fan around the world is that opening partnership. Do you go with form or do you go with your skipper? Because at the moment with Temba, there's a massive discussion around it. I've spoken from a cricketing sense before on how it could work, because I always thought that the way Temba plays the game, etc., the calm head that he has, all of those type of things, could possibly work in Quinny's favor, who's someone that wants to maybe be a little bit more open and free, and perhaps their games could suit each other. That was my vision before he was so terribly informed. But now we're sitting in a situation where we've got a guy that's created history, 3 half centuries on the bounce, then obviously scoring half century in a different format. 42 was the one that broke it. You could have had 4 in a row. So Riza Hendricks, I'm talking about over here. So when it comes to the opening partnership, I'm rather going to ask you not to pick. I'll rather want to ask you, what is the mentality going into an opening partnership into the opening over of a T20 match? How important is it in the power play? And when the conditions are not maybe suiting you, like not coming onto the bat, how do you adjust to still get runs on the ball and keep pressure on the opposition?
I think, I really think confidence is a big thing. So if you have batters whose confidence is kind of knocked, then they're either going to play themselves into a shell, or they're just not going to perform, because it's also unfortunately Temba hasn't had the privilege of now he can sort of just go and play a couple of games and come back, find his form. They've been traveling for a while now, and he hasn't really been bringing form to the party. And I think someone actually mentioned it and said, why not put him in sort of the middle of the order so that he literally does have license? Because obviously at the beginning of an innings, you set the tone for your team, whether you're chasing or setting. And we have a lot of batters who are in form at the moment. And I think it ultimately comes down to playing our best team, and the team that that management fully believes is going to get the job done and achieve the goal, which is to win the World Cup. So I think it's more a confidence thing that you look at, and that's where the conversation needs to be honest with the players, and with someone like Temba, where the coach or manager or whoever just needs to say, listen, are you feeling confident? Because if the answer is no, then you're not too sure if he's going to get the job done.
What are you expecting, Werner, if he does play? I mean, I've said before, all I'm looking for is a regular 30s from him, and this is the minimum. That's what I'm looking for, because at least then we know we can get some runs in that power play to set up number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, and then maybe hopefully Quinny kicks on. But then what happened was, obviously, Quinny was out of form as well at the same time as Temba not playing as well. So we had a massive problem in that opening pair. But are you going to go with Riza, or are you going to go with Temba? What is your mind? We saw Riley Rossell open as well. What is your choice for that opening pair? Because I think that's where everything starts. It's starting off well in that power play.
Yeah, so I would personally not play Temba. I don't think he has the form or confidence at all right now. And I'll be brutally honest, and I've said this in the past, I don't think T20s is his game. I don't think he quite has quite has what it takes to be at the international level that's required for this game. He has done decently well for the Lions, and he's won a final with them as well. But I don't think he is the best player we have in that position right now, and so I do think that Riza should be playing. And that said, I believe Temba will play in this tournament, at least for the first couple of games. He is our captain, and I do see them picking him as an opener with Quinny. I think, unfortunately, Riza is probably going to be the one that misses out, which is unfortunate because obviously Riza's been in fantastic form. But you also can't drop somebody like a Riley Rousseau, who we know how destructive he is, and he performed well in the warm-up game. He had 100 in his last game against India, so it's a difficult one to fit Temba in because he is your captain. I don't necessarily agree with it, but that's what I see happening.
So Em, I'm gonna move on to you now because I want to ask you about someone like Riza Hendricks, and maybe Faye, you can weigh in on this afterwards because I want to actually ask you from a player perspective. But first and foremost, how impressed have you been with Riza? I mean, we used to sit together and watch games, and we used to talk about Riza a lot, and he's improved incredibly over the last couple of years. From the conversations I've had with him behind the scenes, talking to him, asking him what he's doing, he's playing with confidence, a lot more confidence. And I think that's maybe changed his game is the approach to it, the mental approach to it. How impressed have you been with him, for example, and how he's performed, even though he hasn't necessarily always been the first choice?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I've harped on about Riza Hendricks for like a few years now. Every time I'm on a show, we speak about Riza Hendricks, I'm always like, why is this guy not on the side? So yeah, I've been a massive fan of Riza for a while. I just think the thing with Riza is every time he gets an opportunity, almost every time he performs, which is really impressive because, like you said, that mental side is very important because obviously he's in and out of the side, so he's not always the first choice, but he has the mental strength to perform when he's called upon, which is very impressive. So yeah, like I agree with Vanna in that Riza's probably going to be the one to miss out most of the time, which is unfortunate for him. I mean, he's probably used to it by now. Not that it's a good thing, but he's probably used to it by now. So I think it's very impressive and from his side to have been doing that mental work. I mean, I think Khalid, like at the beginning when we started watching him, everyone harped on about his strike rate and how slow he was batting, but he's improved on that a lot. So yeah, he's definitely done some work in that department.
Yeah, and I want to just going back to Temba again. We need to also realize that this is not a race situation. People always want to use that when they're talking about Temba Bavuma. They always want to bring the race card in the situation to make their point maybe more valid, which it doesn't make it more valid. It actually invalidates everything that they're saying because there's cricket reasons for why Temba Bavuma shouldn't be playing, and it's simple as that. I mean, it's form, strike rate. There's a lot of things that have. He hasn't been the same T20 player that I thought he was going to be. I mean, there has been a lot of interruptions, but I'm going to go with form because in a World Cup, I want to pick the best players that are available, of course. But Faye, I want to ask you about Riza because I think we need to talk about this. Hopefully, they do see it as a must selection because I can't see them going any other way with the form that he's in. But how difficult is it? Because I mean, you would have experienced that too, maybe when you're in incredible form, you get picked. You continue from him, but maybe you don't get picked. And then when you do get picked, they expect you to perform instantly. So the struggles mentally, how do you focus and refocus yourself? I mean, how do you think maybe Riza has managed to do what he's done? I mean, because it must be very difficult for a cricketer to be in form as he is, not get selected, and then still perform when he does.
I think for men's cricketers, it's, I don't want to say easier, but it's kind of like if they don't get selected for SA, then it's still a very high standard being played at their domestic level. So they can kind of go on, perform at domestic level, and then the change is like, yes, there's always going to be a change from sort of domestic to international level. But I think if you can perform consistently at domestic level, then the switch over to international will be pretty easy. And generally facilities are also better, or conditions are also they're suited for entertaining. So generally pitches and stuff like that will be better suited to batters. I feel like cricket's just a batting game these days. And I think mentally, Riza's he's just so hungry for that spot. So he's probably just thinking any opportunity he gets, he needs to grab it with both hands. And if he's been in form leading up to the World Cup or whatever opportunity he gets, it's kind of like A, he's hungry for it, and B, he's in form. So he's got that confidence to say, okay, well, as soon as I'm selected, I'm going to take the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. But can I ask you about the Australian conditions? Before this tournament, when it was announced initially, I was always talking about the green tops, the quick onto the bat, the bounce, all of those type of things. Very similar, apparently, to South African conditions, is what a lot of people say. But from this prelims, I would call it, before the qualifiers, ultimately, the ball was turning a lot. There was a lot of swing on offer. The overhead conditions, there was rain as well. I mean, there's even talk about the first game between South Africa and Zimbabwe actually being rained out, 90% chance of rain, I heard, floating around. So something that we might not have thought that would happen in Australia. But conditions wise, can you give us some insight into it? Because obviously going to be playing at different grounds as well. That's for you, Faye.
I was about to ask the question for me. I've never played in Australia.
Yeah.
It's something that I would love to do. But yeah, the pitches have been kind of weird. But even like not even looking at the pitches, looking at the outfields as well. I mean, they're massive. Like guys are hitting sort of 80 meters long and it's still not going over the boundary. And those fields are plugging, and I think that is from the rain that's been around. So I don't think we're going to see many scores of like 200 plus, because those outfields are quite hectic. And like you say, the conditions aren't really very well suited for just like hitting through the line. I mean, like turn and swing, we don't often see that in men's competitions. But I think it's definitely going to be a more like a skills competition now, not necessarily who can hit the ball the hardest, because like I said, outfields and the size of the boundaries, I don't think it's really going to be a competition of hitting through the line. I think tactics are going to be imperative in this World Cup. And I think it's really just going to be the batters that can grind it out the longest and the best and sort of hit those pockets and run their twos and threes. I think those are going to be the sides that are going to come out on top.
Yeah. So I think we can all agree over here with regards to the opening pair. We've already decided, I think everybody on this channel has decided over here right now that Riza and Quinny should open the batting. I mean, I'm in agreement with that. Then that number 3 spot is looking like Riley Rousseau, of course. Werner, I'm going to come to you here. So 3 and 4, Riley Rousseau, Aiden Markram, David Miller, we've got Heinrich Klaassen. There's a lot of batters that we have available for that middle spot that are all in form. And then obviously Tristan Stubbs. And then you've got the option of playing the 2 seeming all-rounders or the 2 spinners. That's going to be the discussion that's probably going to be heated going into Hobart, the opening match, because we are playing at Hobart in the opening match, and we don't know if there's going to be rain or not. If there isn't rain, but it is overcast, that ball might spin a little bit according to what we've seen in this prelims. Now we're heading into this tournament. We've seen the qualifiers. We've seen what Hobart has to offer. There's a lot of talk about the drop-in pitches, etc. So, from your perspective, Werner, that all-rounder role is probably is the other part of this particular argument. Do we go with the 2 seaming all-rounders, which I think I favor that more than I would favor the 2 spinners, dependable on where we play. But I think for Hobart, I would go with Keshav in the mix. What would you do when it comes to that second slot in that all-rounder department?
Yeah, I do think it is venue conditions dependent, as you say. Hobart is actually generally the place where I would rather play the extra seamer. It tends to move a bit off the deck around there. Even in some of the games in the if you want to call it qualifiers, it was also moving around for the pace bowlers through the air, especially when you're bowling second. So I would probably lean towards playing the extra pace bowler instead of the spinner. But then again, most of the grounds are pretty big, so it wouldn't be a big issue to play both spinners, even if the wicket doesn't turn a lot. Because the spinners will definitely be in the game. It won't be that easy to just chip them over the top for sixes like they did against us in India. So I wouldn't be against them playing the two spinners most of the games, but if they go into it and they know that the pitch is probably going to move around a bit, there's moisture in the air, then I'd rather play the extra seamer. And so Janssen doesn't have a lot of experience, right? So it's a tricky one for me with him because he has a lot of potential, and we've seen what he's done in the test matches, and we know he can swing the ball early up, but he's not a good option at the death, and he doesn't have a lot of good change ups. So he can go for a lot of runs as well, but he does bring a bit of extra batting. So it's a very tricky one there because I do feel Wayne Parnell at 7 is a slot too high, and that's why I said that Dwayne Pretorius missing out is a big blow to us because he lends
He's a
that
massive blow.
batting depth. Parnell is probably the better bowler, and he can bowl for us in the power play, which is great. But batting him at 7 feels a slot too high, and that does weaken our batting lineup a bit. But I suppose that's what we're going to end up doing is batting him at 7, and then the question will be then at 8, will it be Keshav Maharaj, which I suspect they will go with, or will they bring in Marco Janssen? So I expect him to go 7 Parnell, 8 Keshav.
Yeah. And Emily, I'm going to assume over here that obviously we've got that 3, 4, 5 basically slotted. So that number 6 is kind of for Tristan and for maybe Heinrich, dependable on where they're going to play Heinrich. Sometimes they move him up before David, and David bats lower. But if you're going to have to pick between the two of them, which one would you go to? Me personally, I'm going to say Tristan. I'm a massive fan of that guy and what he offers. The confidence he has, he's going to play with freedom. Doesn't have any hang-ups from the past, etc. He can just go out there and play his natural game. If we can get a good start at the beginning, though, what would you go with over there in that particular spot?
Yeah, I agree with you, Khalid. I'd go with Tristan as well. I think he's that good. I wouldn't call him a finisher, but he's good in that position in the sense of he can be a finisher, but he can also come in a lot earlier if needed. If he comes in at 6 and early on in the innings, he'd be able to play there, build an innings from there, and then he can play the finisher role, I think. So I think I'd put him in that position. I can see him in that position because I'm also a big fan of him. Like you said, he has no past heartbreak, no World Cup heartbreak quite yet. So yeah, hopefully that will sort of give him the chance to kick on and impetus. But yeah, I'd put him in that position too. I agree with you there.
I mean, there's been cases for the Warriors where he was in that position. He came in 5 down, 4 down, and he actually won them the game, taking his time and going for it. So I think he has everything in his game currently. The fact that he's playing first-class cricket as well is going to help him tremendously, I feel, just for his calmness and his mentality and be able to read conditions. But I think, our best part of our team is obviously our bowling attack. Everybody knows how dangerous it is. But unfortunately, Faye, with the 2 all-rounder option, there might be someone that's going to miss out. The question is, who's it going to be? Because we've got KG, we've got Lungi, we've got Andrich. One of them, you can only play 2 out of 3, I feel, if you want to get the second spinner in as well. So it could be a little bit of a tricky one because they're going to have to decide which one they go with. For me personally, I still believe that Lungi, from a variations perspective, is probably our best T20 bowler. That's how I feel currently. But KG, when it comes to any tournament or any high pressure game, the man just comes to the party. So he's number 1 for me. So it's between Anrich and Lungi for me. What do you go with regards to our seam attack? Because there's positives in both and there's negatives in both. Because Anrich's pace is a positive, but it can also be a negative. Maybe on a bigger ground, it might not be so much because they could go after him and perhaps they could make a mistake. But on the flip side as well, it will travel faster if the ball's coming onto the bat quicker. So from your perspective, when you're picking those things, how much detail goes in? It's not football. We can't pick an 11. Like, I know I see a lot of fans quoting 11s already, speaking about the 11, that this is the 11 must play. And I'm like, but you haven't even seen the conditions. Cricket's all about conditions. That's how you win games. So, your thoughts on that and the bowling attack specifically, because we are looking menacing. There's an article in the magazine as well on Charles Langeveld where he speaks about our bowling attack and how he's prepared them. Please go read that as well, guys. cricketfanaticsmag.com. But yeah, Faye, your thoughts on our bowling attack? What makes him special as well?
Well, I think like with us, regardless of who's sort of on the field, if you look at our bench, like it's kind of just as dangerous. But I think in terms of seamers, I think variation is going to be super important. Because someone like Anrich, like his pace, I think used to be his X factor, and I think the game is just it's kind of run away with pace. It's almost like the faster the better now. So I think variation is going to be important, and we know Lungi is like he's pretty good middle overs and death. So I think again it should come down to form, and we should really look at stats and who's sort of been getting the job done leading into this tournament. Kind of like looking at spinners as well. Like Keshav has been on a roll, so I really can't see them sitting him out. Just because he has been doing so well. But in terms of seamers, Anrich has a lot of experience. So, but again, the variation is important. So I think I would probably go with Lungi actually as the seamer.
Werner, you can come in here as well.
Yeah, I'm a bit on the fence, to be honest. Because if we had
That's why I've
Unrich,
shifted it to everybody else because I don't know either.
if we had the Unrich that we had during the last World Cup, where he was quick and accurate, and on form, then I would say 100% Unrich. And you'd probably also say Unrich because he'll suit this Australian pitches. It's quick, it's bouncy, there is big ground, so even if they connect some of them, they might still be caught on the boundary. So I would slightly be leaning towards Unrich, but I do feel in general Lungi is the better T20 bowler with his variations. He's a better option at the death probably. He has a very good slower ball. So I'm very much on the fence with this one, and I don't think they would go wrong with either one. Maybe on the slightly slower tracks, I would go with Lungi, and when you know the track's going to be a quick one, is going to go through, then I'd probably lean towards Andrik. So I'd still go conditions wise.
Conditions wise is the way to go. I've been emphasizing that, and you guys must also think about that as well in the live chat. Think about that as well. And Emily, I don't think I even need to ask you, do I? Inside joke.
Lungi all the way, boy. No, I'm joking. No, but I agree in the sense of like the whole like Einrich has a lot of pace, but recently hasn't been the best with his accuracy. So he has a lot of pace, but I mean, it's all good and well to have a lot of pace, but it's like how you use your pace. So if you have a lot of pace but you're wayward, then I mean, it kind of defeats the point of having a lot of pace. So yes, like what Vanna was saying, if we had the Anna of like the previous World Cup, I would have probably gone with him, without giving it a second thought. But as you also said, Vanna, like Lungi has one of the best slow balls that I've seen recently, and he can bring that out in demand. So I think using that at the death is going to be very important. I was watching the game today, the Zimbabwe game today as well. Like variations, a lot of the bowlers bowled, a lot of slow balls, Yorkers. So I think that's going to be very important at the death, especially. So again, obviously depends on conditions, but right now I'm leaning more towards Lungi than Anna.
Yeah. Because I mean, we don't necessarily have a Yorker specialist in the team necessarily, like that you can look at and you say, okay, that's our Yorker specialist. Like KG's done it, Andi's done it, Lungi's done it now and here and there. But like, there's no one specifically that you say, okay, this guy is the Yorker bowler. Like every single time he steps in, he's probably going to bowl a Yorker. So I'm hoping that KG finds a way to do that. But I think the Australian conditions, I think they feel a lot more confident going into this World Cup, knowing that the conditions might suit them more. So let's talk about the other group quickly. I just want to get some of your danger teams, guys. Who are the teams that you're obviously looking out for and why? I would like to know that. Let's just go around the room before we say to end this preview. So let's start with Faye and then we go to Werner and we end off with Emily. Chuck.
I think Australia are going to be on fire. I mean, we can't really compare the two games, but if we look at how the ladies' game was impacted and how their performance was impacted by just playing at home in front of home crowds, and I think the men are also going to be like super hungry just to like perform for their home crowd. So that's kind of the team that I'm going to be looking at. I'm sort of, it's weird, I've sort of been converted to like an English men's fan. I don't know, maybe it's my heritage, but I'm sorry. But yeah, I don't know. I think
don't sell the cold pack now.
I don't know. I'm just an Alex Hales fan, so I'm kind of like, well, maybe there's hope there. But I think, I think Australia, and I'm kind of hoping for an Australia and India final, but we always know that Pakistan tends to throw an Uno reverse card in there, so we never know what happens. But I've said it a lot. I think Australia is kind of going to be like the team to watch.
I actually think Pakistan have a pretty good team this time. I think they have the pace bowlers to really use these conditions well. Obviously, we know Babar Azam and Rizwan has formed a very good partnership at the top. I would say great, but I do feel that they still go a bit too slowly at times. So I guess it'll depend on how they go about it. They have a great opening partnership and they're very solid. But I think at times they stretch it in too long into the innings when some of the bigger hitters could come in and take over. Not everybody agrees with me on that point, but that's fine as well. I can see Emily does not, but I do feel Pakistan has a great team, and I think they can go very well. Obviously, we know how in Australian conditions, they should go very well. England, obviously those conditions will suit them as well, especially their big hitters. I think it's going to be crucial. Those teams that really have some power hitters in the middle. I think that includes us, because those are big boundaries. But if you have real power hitters, you can clear any boundary. Even if you need to go for fours in the gaps, we have the power to do that as well. So I think that's going to be key. Obviously, with big fields, you want to run 2s and 3s as well. So it'll be interesting to see how players adapt. I think, especially a side like India, they have a strong side and they've been a lot more attacking of late. But they're used to smaller fields, so it'll be interesting to see how they adapt. So I guess those are probably still the teams I would back. I think we have a great team this time. I think this is by far our best T20 side we've taken to a T20 World Cup. Just the middle order we have, the bowling options we do have. It's unfortunate we don't have Dwayne Pretorius, but I think we have a fantastic side. But this is a T20 format. Any team on the day could probably beat anybody. I'd love to see Zimbabwe spring a surprise on a side or two. Not us, but I'd love to see them win a couple of games. I just want us to start properly this time. We can't go like last year, losing to Australia first game. We can't start off our tournament like that again. We need to start off on the front foot, show that we are here to really play and not just be in contention. So yeah.
I take one step further this time around, because I mean we were very unlucky in the last World Cup. Did really well throughout the tournament. But Emily, I think the one thing that maybe we can say from a from the subcontinent teams is that they've really beefed up their bowling departments, and that's what makes them more dangerous than they've ever been before. So, who's the danger teams for you, and who are you looking out for?
Let me just say something first before I say that. Baba and Rizwan, okay, they may start slowly at times. Start slowly at times, but I feel like they always somehow like catch up. I don't know, like they may be like their strike rate may like be in the low hundreds or high 90s, whatever. But once they start get going, he can't stop them. Anyway, so I think I'm gonna go with India. So I agree with Faye in that sense of like it's home tournament, home advantage. Australia's always like, at the top somehow, or they're always like thereabouts, So they will probably be in the final because I mean, they're just quality. But I think watch out for India. And like Bano was saying, Pakistan have those two players, so watch out for them. But I think what I really want to see from South Africa is beating. So yes, we can beat like the teams that aren't that good or the lesser teams, but it's about how you beat them. So I think we can't just beat, if we're going to beat Zimbabwe, Bangladesh, whatever, we can't beat them by like 10 runs or two runs. we can't like take it to the last. I don't think you can't take it to the last over. Like for me, because net run rate's always, we've seen that net run rate is so important. Like it's so important. So you can win every game and you can win 2 out of 3 and still not make it because of the net run rate. So I think like we need to beat those teams well. Like get off the right foot, win the first game, but also win it well, because our first game is Zimbabwe. So that's our biggest chance to get a positive net run rate from the get-go. So I think that's what I'd love to see from South Africa. But in terms of the teams that I'm watching out for, India and Australia, I think, are top 2.
Okay. Yeah, be ruthless. So let me just give you a quick predictions for each group, or for our group at least. Who do you think is going to top our group, and who do you think is going to top the other group? We can start with Werner and then end up with Faye. Just say who you think is going to top our group first.
I think we're going to top the group, and Pakistan's going to be in second place.
Cool. Emily.
I feel like it's so bad for me. I'm gonna say India and Pakistan. Sorry, South Africa.
Faye.
I'm not gonna lie. Like when I was talking about Australia and India, I was kind of like, and then somebody mentioned South Africa. I was like, oh, flip! I didn't even mention them. But I think if we can all club together at the same time, because generally we have very temperamental performances, so it'll be like this Oak scores 100, but then everyone else goes out for a duck. I'm kind of, if we can all club together and there's 100, a 50 maybe, and a fifer, I think we do have a chance, but I'm going to go with India.
Okay. I'm going South Africa top of the group, and I think India has a little bit too much for the rest. So I'm going to go South Africa and India, or one of the two, for 1 and 2. But I really think South Africa have a massive chance. I think we have the most balanced team that we've had for a very, very long time. And I think this team is also adaptable to conditions. I do believe that. And I'm hoping that they can implement that. So let's hope that South Africa come out on top. But guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. Thank you, Faye. Thank you, Werner. Thank you, Emily, for coming on the show. I know there's electricity problems, etc. We know they have all of that. But we've now reached the end of the show.
Not me.
Thanks a lot. You are getting it soon, though. Have you heard? England's worse than South Africa now.
Hopefully. Let's trust. Let's trust.
No. Yeah, you guys are having power cuts and crazy things happening in the first World Cup. I can't believe it. Ultimately, that's crazy. But thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to smash the like button, comment, share, subscribe, and download the World Cup edition of the magazine. It is live currently, guys. So please go and get your copy. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every month. Link is on the screen as well as in the description. KG is on the front cover with a feature from KG. So please go ahead and go watch that, or read everything and watch everything that's in this magazine. Because it's digital, we can also put video in. So please go ahead and support us there too, please. And also become a Patreon today. Link is on the screen as well as in the description. Thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. And I'll see you guys again on Sunday evening. We'll do a nice podcast, laid back podcast show where we just discuss cricket and everything in life. Hopefully, so Man United can also win this weekend, and then I don't be depressed on Sunday evening. But I hope that everything goes well with everybody. So have a great weekend, everybody. Have an awesome night. Have a great day, and I hope you guys enjoy the World Cup. It's kicking off tomorrow, so looking forward to it. And as well, please go support the Western Province ladies at Newlands.
Yeah, Faye, good luck.
Faye's going to be there as well. So please, Faye, if you want to say anything to the people.
It's free, so there's actually no excuse for not coming.
It's absolutely no excuse. So please, you can even get an opportunity to meet us as well. We'll get some of the other guys as well on the show, and maybe on Sunday evening to give their say, the ones that didn't get an opportunity to come on the show as well. So please stay tuned to that. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Take care and have a great weekend. Peace out.